الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين أما بعد. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala advises us in His glorious book in Surah Yunus chapter 12 in verse 22. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم هو الذي يسيركم في البر والبحر حتى إذا كنتم في الفلك وجرين بهم بريح طيبة وفرحوا بها جاءتها ريح عاصف وجاءهم الموج من كل مكان وظنوا أنهم أحيط بهم دعوا الله مخلصين له الدين لأن أنجيتنا من هذه لنكونن من الشاكرين. This is a situation that occurs very often in human history. The verse says, it is He, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He is the one who enables you to travel through the land and sea and in air by extension. And it so happens that when you are on ships sailing with a favorable wind to the passengers' delight, suddenly the ships are overcome by a gale wind, and those on board are overwhelmed by waves from every side, and they assume they are doomed. They cry out to Allah alone in sincere devotion. If you save us from this, we will certainly be grateful. Now the verse is describing a very scary situation. You're on a ship in the middle of an ocean, and the waves are like mountains. Or you're on a plane, and you have turbulence, and the plane is just going all over the place. What is the first thing that people do, even atheists? Ya Allah, Ya Allah. That's when they find Allah. Because they know there is nothing, their money is not going to help them. All of the people they know are not going to help them. Everybody who could help them disappears. And Allah puts everyone in situations like that, so you realize that it's only Allah can save you in such a situation. So danger comes and they realize their helplessness. But when Allah saves them and they're back on solid land, they forget Allah and they forget all the deals that they made with Allah. If you save me, I will do X, Y, Z. And they forget all about it. And they forget that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, who has control over you in the middle of an ocean or in the middle of the air, has control over you over land too. Don't think that just because you're on terra firma, that the ground is not going to crack and you're going to fall in. No one is safe. No one is safe from Allah's punishment. So that's why we always obey Allah and we ask for His help and we admit our helplessness, that only He can save us and guide us to what is best for us. When they built the Titanic, they put human engineering at the time. It was double-hulled, it was sectioned out. They claimed it was unsinkable. Their claim, fate cannot sink it. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala taught them a very important lesson in humility. That, basically they're saying God can't sink it. We made it so well, God cannot sink it. When did it sink? On its maiden voyage. No one should ever feel safe if they disobey Allah and they don't have Allah factored in all of their calculations. So in the beginning of in the next verse in Surah Yunus, verse 23, فَلَمَّا أَنْجَاهُمْ إِذَا هُمْ يَبْغُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. But as soon as Allah saves them and they are safely on land, they transgress in the land unjustly. So they call on Him, save us, and then as soon as He saves us, they forget about Allah and they go back to same old. And this is not, don't take it as this particular case. This happens in everyone's life. If you're newly married and the wife is pregnant and is like, the doctor is afraid that something's wrong with the child. He may die or he may whatever. What is the first thing the couple do? Ya Allah, Ya Allah. That they start praying, they start, they find Allah because nobody else can help them. But many times, all the bad news were bad diagnostic, and then the child is born and they're healthy, and they forget Allah. They go and thank the doctor and thank the hospital and forget all about Allah. That's a very bad, ungrateful behavior in human nature. You should thank Allah first because He is the one that saves you. Same thing happens if, somebody got a diagnostic, you got stage 4 cancer. Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Nobody's going to save you other than Allah. The doctor's already given up on you. You might as well be dead. But it's in Allah's hands. So, you go to Allah first. That's who you call on Allah, and you have to obey Him in order for Him to help you, and not display such ungrateful behavior that when He saves you, you forget Allah and you go back to sinning and you go back to your normal behavior. So, in times of ease, it's very natural, for most people to forget about Allah. Everything's good. You're healthy, you're wealthy, everything's good, you got a good job. The good point, you have to remember Allah in times of ease. So when you get in trouble, Allah will remember you. When you go to Him, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, you have made deposits before. Your bank account is full. You knew Allah in times of ease, so He will remember you in times of hardship. Do not be ungrateful and forget about Allah if everything's good. And you only go to Allah, you only pray, you only make dua when something bad happens. That is a very bad human behavior does not befit a believer. The remainder of the verse, Allah says, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ إِنَّمَا بَغْيُكُمْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ مَتَاعَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا ثُمَّ إِلَيْنَا مَرْجِعُكُمْ فَنُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. People, your transgression is only against your own souls. There is only brief enjoyment in this worldly life. Then to us is your return, and then we will inform you of what you used to do. So the beautiful part of this verse is when you transgress against something, you take something that's not yours, you hurt somebody, you go against Allah's law. Allah says your transgression is not against anybody else. It's against your own self first and foremost. Because if you go and hurt somebody, Allah is using you to teach that person a lesson, and then you will get the punishment in due time. And the other thing is mata' al-hayat ad-dunya. Mata' is mansuba. In Arabic, it's connected to the verb of transgression. That means as a result of the transgression, you may have some enjoyment, but that enjoyment is only in this life. Let me give you an example. You're an adult. You have brothers and sisters who are, below maybe 4 or 5 years old. They're very small. The parents die. They leave an inheritance. And since you are the oldest person, you take all of the inheritance and deprive all of your brothers and sisters from their share. Can you enjoy whatever you take after you die? No. Any enjoyment you may get is only in this life. What after death, then the punishment and all the sin and all the stuff comes in. So Allah is saying, do not sacrifice the hereafter for the enjoyment that you can only enjoy in this life, and you never take it with you. So all of the enjoyment is limited to this life. And Allah reminds everyone that we all have to return to Allah for judgment. And we return alone. You're not going to have a lawyer. You're not going to have a military or security forces to protect you. You won't even have clothes on. We'll all return to Allah individually to answer for everything that we said and done in this life. So when you think about it, we have to follow what Allah tells us to be safe in the hereafter. Because nothing in this life is worth sacrificing the hereafter for. And there's a few verses in Surah Al-Shu'ara in chapter 26, verses 205 and 207. They're beautiful and they kind of drive this point home. Allah says, أَفَرَأَيْتَ إِن مَتَّعْنَاهُمْ سِنِينَ ثُمَّ جَاءَهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يُوعَدُونَ مَا أَغْنَى عَنْهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يُمَتَّعُونَ. Imagine, O Prophet, if we allowed them enjoyment for years, then there came to them that what they had been threatened with, would that enjoyment be of any benefit to them at all? Allah may give you many things to enjoy in this life, but all the enjoyment of this life doesn't mean anything if punishment is waiting for you in the hereafter. Let's take it more on this world stage. Here's unlimited funds. You have 10 years, do whatever you want. But after those 10 years, we're going to throw you in prison, we're going to torture you, and we're going to execute you. Would you enjoy those 10 years? Would you enjoy a day of those 10 years? Then why would you think you can enjoy anything in this life if punishment is waiting for you? That's why we always have to think of the hereafter. Think of the ramifications of everything we do. Because if you do that, then you act appropriately, you live happy in this life, and you live happy in the hereafter. But if you forget about Allah, you forget about the day of judgment, then you're going to be miserable in this life and miserable in the hereafter. So if you love yourself, don't love anyone else. Love yourself, be selfish. If you are selfish and only think of yourself, obey Allah. We all love ourselves more than anything else. If you do, obey Allah, because then you save yourself the punishment in this life and the punishment in the hereafter. So the true and everlasting enjoyment is not meant for this life. It's meant for the hereafter. This life is a test. The good times will go away, will end. The bad times will end. A comfortable life will end. Sickness will end. Everything ends with death. And all that's left is the hereafter. And that's whether heaven or hell. That's the only two destinations in the hereafter. So we have to make sure that we do not sacrifice the prize in the hereafter, which is Jannah and Allah's grace and Allah's acceptance and love. We do not sacrifice that for momentary enjoyment that we do in this life. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لكم فاستغفروه إنه الغفور الرحيم.